Hi, this is Natalie Rydstrom from SBR Picks. The much anticipated Floyd Money Mayweather versus Manny Pacman Pacquiao match is as close to happening as it has been in years. The two best boxers in the world recently stared each other down at a Miami Heat basketball game, and sports bettors as well as boxing fans are on the edge of their seats. Joining me now to discuss what is expected to be the richest boxing fight in history is the host of William Hill's special podcast, Lee Phelps. Lee, thanks for being here today.
No problem, Natalie.
Now, there are so many places we could begin talking about Mayweather-Pacquiao, so let's start from the top. Both fighters are past their prime, though Mayweather's defense is still the best in the world. Now, before we break down the betting odds, tell me if you think this dream matchup will live up to the hype.
I'm not sure it can, to be honest with you. I mean, this has been so long in the making, this fight. We're going back to kind of like 2007, 2008. When I suppose you would argue that both fighters were at the prime. I mean, you know, you say they're not at the prime, and Mayweather's still beating everyone he comes up against. So, you know, he fought Marcos Maidana, who's a young, hungry fighter who's fast, he's very hard-hitting, and he dealt with him twice. You know, Pacquiao's got back onto it, and everyone he comes up against, younger fighters, he seems to be putting in their place as well. I don't think it can live up to the hype. I mean, to live up to the hype, I think Mayweather would have to be knocked down. You know, it has to be that kind of fight where Pacquiao clips him and he goes down and he has to get up and then battle back. That's the kind that would make it live up to the hype. What will probably happen is that Mayweather will use those fantastic defensive skills to try and evade what Pacquiao's got. And Pacquiao, I love Pacquiao's style. I think he's all action. He throws so many punches in a fight from all sorts of angles. But he can look a little bit ragged against people who make him miss. Now, if Mayweather is really on song and makes him miss, then it could be a bit of a messy fight, and we could just see Mayweather backpedaling, Pacquiao jumping in, throwing punches, and no one really connecting with anything. That's my fear for the fight. Hopefully I'm wrong.
How likely is the fight going to happen?
It's looking more and more likely, but we have been here before. You know, we've had stories about there being, you know, right down to the wire where they've almost agreed the terms of the purse and everything else, but there's always something that seems to get in the way, whether you believe it's people thinking that Mayweather's running scared of Pacquiao. I'm not sure that's true. Whether you think it's the fact that Pacquiao's got something to hide, I definitely don't think that's true. I mean, I'm a big fan of Pacquiao. I don't think he likes all these rumours about, you know, the possibility of him, you know, using supplements and all the rest of it. You know, there's a lot going on here on both sides of fighters' egos, promoters, money. There's a lot to be decided. What I can't get my head around is that if it's $300 million this fight's worth, just get it on and take your share of the money, and that's that. I think Mayweather's legacy is what's maybe holding him back slightly. He's got this unbeaten record to defend, and he wants to beat Rocky Marciano's record, you know, and he's got a few fights left to do that. So I understand why he doesn't want to lose, and maybe he fears losing to this kind of, you know, this fast, hard-hitting southpaw. But if I was a betting man, which luckily I am, I'd say it is going to happen. I think it's getting closer and closer. The fact they met face-to-face, the fact they then went to the hotel room and had hour-long talks, seems like there's a lot more, you know, like there's a lot more kind of kind-spirited about this time. It was quite mean-spirited before. It seems to be a bit more of a coming together now, so fingers crossed.
All right then. Well, if the match were to go ahead, according to the betting markets, Mayweather would open as a 1-3 favourite, meaning obviously $300 bet is needed to win 100. However, there's likely to be substantial line movement in this Super Bowl of boxing, so to speak. So do you see value in the current line?
I'd struggle to back... Mayweather is great, and let's not get it wrong, but I'd struggle to back him at 1-3. I mean, you know, his record suggests that no one can beat him, but when you look at that record, he has fought great fighters, but he hasn't always been tested against the best. And this is the best he will face at the moment. So, you know, I'm a big fan of Pacquiao, so I don't know if it's my heart ruling my head slightly, but I think on the odds alone, I would side with Pacquiao. I think he's a little too big. In fact, he's actually a bigger price in some places than Amir Khan is, which I find really, really surprising. I mean, Amir Khan's a lot younger than Manny Pacquiao, I suppose, and probably has a little bit of an edge on speed on him. But yeah, I'd go for Pacquiao. But I tell you what, Natalie, one little side bet would be worth looking at, and that's the draw. They couldn't just have one fight. If this fight happens, they won't just have one fight. They'll have 2 or 3 fights. So why not have a draw the first time round, build up, crank up the tension, have a second fight, and then you really get something going then. You look at Pacquiao's trilogy, or actually more than a trilogy in the end, but the trilogy of fights that he had with Juan Manuel Marquez before he got into the 4th fight. Very, very close fights between very, very good fighters. And if I'm right, and Mayweather is making Pacquiao miss, and Pacquiao's not landing too much, and he's not landing too much, it might be a very hard fight to score as well. So the draw is usually a big price. It's probably around the 23.0, 22 to 1 mark. Might be worth a look for the conspiracy theorists out there.
What would the line have to shift to in order for you to feel the best play is on a bet on Mayweather by money line?
That's a good question. I mean, because a lot of people will be doing what you said, and that putting the 300 on to win 100, and fair enough, big players in Vegas will be all over that. I think it'd have to be. I think it'd have to be bigger than 2 to 1 on for me to get involved with Mayweather. I mean, mainly because it's not really my kind of price. Especially in the boxing world where you're never quite sure what the judges are going to do. You've got these 3 judges, you're not quite sure how they're going to score it. One might like an aggressive puncher like Pacquiao. Another one might be a real fan of the defensive style. So I'd feel uneasy backing him at that. When there are also question marks about maybe his age, maybe his lack of interest in fighting a southpaw, especially a southpaw of this caliber. So yeah, probably it'd have to be bigger than 1 to 2 for me. I think it's just a bit too short.
Now let's talk about other markets. Pacman has 38 knockouts on 57 victories, and although he hasn't won by stoppage since 2009 against Miguel Cotto, he did floor his last opponent 6 times in Chris Algieri. Where do you see the Pacman by knockout odds opening up?
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting. It's a really interesting market because when you think about his style, and you're right about that, he hasn't it's almost like some people suggest that maybe he's lost that slight edge where he doesn't want to finish other fighters, and I can understand that. He's kind of almost he's punished them almost longer by keeping hitting them and opening cuts up and all the rest of it. And Pacquiao to knock Mayweather out is a huge call. I mean, you'd be looking at we're talking about nearly 3 to 1, nearly 4.0 for him just to win the fight. So you've got to be looking at something like maybe 6, 7 to 1, 8 to 1 maybe for him to knock him out. I mean, that would be a huge surprise if he knocked Mayweather out. I mean, dropping Mayweather would be a massive surprise. Knocking him out, stopping the fight would be. I can't see that happening, Natalie. I think it would go the 12 rounds. I think it'd be quite cagey early on, and then it would develop as it went on. But I don't see anyone knocking anyone out. I think it goes the full 12.
Well, Mayweather is not known as a knockout artist by any means, with just 26 on 47 victories. But he is the naturally bigger man, a good 1.5 inches taller, and his 6-inch reach advantage. Now, ignoring his cautious defense-first style for a moment, and maybe considering that he knocked down Juan Manuel Marquez, whom in turn floored Pacquiao, do you think his power could bother Pacquiao?
Yes, it could. Yeah, I mean, just because he's not the biggest puncher in the world doesn't mean that obviously he can't stop people. You look what he did to Ricky Hatton as well, and Ricky Hatton was a tough guy. One of the toughest British fighters we've had for a long, long time. So that reach is important that you mentioned. 6-inch reach advantage. That'll just be trying to keep Pacquiao off him. Jabbing him and making sure he keeps him at distance. But Pacquiao's got that. Got great movement and he can get inside. Yeah. I don't think he would knock Pacquiao out. I mean, he'd have to. The only way he would do it would be to do what Marquez did to Pacquiao, which is to catch him clean, a very technically clean punch. That is possible, because if Mayweather is moving and using his defensive skills, and Pacquiao does throw himself in and leaves himself open, one of those short, sharp shots to the chin, and which is what Marquez got Pacquiao with, would see Pacquiao go down again. It doesn't matter what your chin's like. If you get caught by one of those, you go in. So if I had to back a knockout by either fighter, it would be Mayweather. I think the only way Pacquiao wins is by breaking him down gradually and winning on points in the end. So I could see that. Just because he's technically superb, Mayweather. When you hit someone on the chin and it's in the right place, it doesn't matter how hard it is, as long as you hit them in the right place. So it's possible. We've seen it from Pacquiao before. We've never seen Mayweather knocked out.
Okay, Slee, so who's going to win this mega fight and how?
Well, on the odds that we've got at the moment, and that's just the win market, I'd be looking at Pacquiao just because of the value. But when we get some more, I'd be looking at the fight going 12 rounds. I'd also have a little saver on the draw as well. But when we get those knockout prices, I'd be interested to see what price Mayweather is for a knockout, because that is a possibility. But I see it being a 12-round fight. And I'd go for Pacquiao just to edge it on the odds at the moment. If they change, we'll chat again before May.
Okay, wonderful. Lee Phelps, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks a lot.